Hello everyone and welcome back to round 16 of the Limitless Qualifier Part 2. We have Shintaro Ito from Japan, world champion. You know, we have had it on stream before, but it's always a pleasure to watch. I'm so glad that we can watch Japanese players. And he's up against another very popular name. It's Gabriel Pino from Brazil, another really popular player in South America. So we have players from like the two different ends of the world facing up against each other. And Gabriel is playing Zacian ADP, really the most popular deck. And as you already know, Shintaro is playing Mill with the Makago variant. And I'm joined by Marco.
Hello,
What's up?
everybody. So as we see, we already had Shintaro a bunch of times, and as you may understand, we really like. He's both a good player, and at the same time, he's playing a very interesting deck, a very interesting take on a westernized deck that we saw a lot of play of. But his way of proceeding to things is to look at the quality of cards, just look for the specific cards you want with a Macargo, instead of just having the main Chino engine and draw all the cards in your deck. So how do you think he fares up against ADP Station?
So the matchup is actually it can become at some point if the ADP player is playing the Oranguru Ultra Prism with the resource management and not playing energy switches, it can become really grindy. And if you play energy switches, which I just saw, Gabriel is playing 2 energy switching cards, so yeah, that should help him in that matchup. If you're able to not accelerate your energy, like not attach them turn by turn, but accelerate your energy all at once, then the mill player has no way of taking them away by using crushing hammers and stuff. So that really gives you a way to work with and a way to get off your attacks consistently without having to worry about all your cards being taken away.
Indeed. And we also see that Shintaro does not play any Crushing Hammers, I believe, so his opponent just decides to just attach the water energy, which Gabriel decides to go for that road because he knows it will not be discarded. And the Shintaro starts is pretty decent. He does have some setup as well as a supporter. So,
Yeah.
and we also excuse ourselves if sometimes the Shitaro's game would be slow. Remember, they're playing from Japan. It's a long way for them, and it's probably pretty late for them already. So, yes, but we see him going for the Oranguru, just going for the setup over, for example, the Marip. Will not be very effective here.
Yeah, turn 1, Slugma, Makago plus a draw supporter. Really nice. That's what you want to see. And also being able to finish all that off with an intrepid sword eventually. Just extending his hand and yeah, getting a lot of options really set up for the next turns. And yeah, I think running the ADP player out of switching cards with the Marip is certainly a win condition or something that you always have to be aware of and not overextend. Like if you only have one switch card left, it's probably a good thing to just go for resource management one turn and shuffle a bunch of switches back in so you don't get caught.
Indeed. And we see Gabriel just going right now for a setup. He does find the Marnie, which is a very important deck in this matchup. It's, removing cards from the hand of the soul player removes their option. And so overall, it's I think the way to go for him. If he's able to connect this Marnie after he GX, probably, that's gonna mean... Oh, actually decides to go for a Marnie right now. He knows he has 2 Belelben Bryson Men. This means the 3 Belelben Bryson Men are at the bottom of Shintaro's deck.
Yeah, but Shintaro drawing the Cynthia, it's I think he's really has upped the draw supporters in his deck list. I think he's playing he's playing 2 Cynthia and a lot more Cynthia and Caitlyn than we used to see. Like usually decks only played 1 or 2, but he's playing 3. So he has tried to make his mill deck as consistent as possible, right? Not relying on having to find a lot of Pokemon, but instead setting up the stage 1s consistently by just drawing a bunch of cards.
So there's this move over. Still going for the setup option. I still need some more tools. Probably the Merip right now will hit the board. Remember, the Merip is so annoying to play against, especially with the Slumbering Forest in play. That's gonna mean that you have to use basically the switch every turn if you are, if you know, you have 25% of getting out of the sleep condition. But at the same time, you need also a way to get rid of the doll if the Merip does not stay on the active. And in fact, here Shintaro is thinking, should I put the Merip on the active because he will, I can still retreat by attaching the energy, but is it worth it? And there it is. He actually thinks that is the correct play and puts the pocket doll on the active. So already Shintaro is already saying, hey man, I know you just GX, congratulations, but now you gotta start taking prizes, because otherwise I'm gonna start milling you.
And there's a double head, so that's already a good start. Waking up. Gabriel really, hitting that 25% chance. Really nice.
Yeah, that's excellent for him. Right now, he doesn't need to invest a switch into this knockout. And look at that. If he's able to capture out some of Shintaro's Pokemon, then he might be able, to really take out a knockout. But obviously, that's not what Shintaro wants, and will try in all the ways to prevent that.
Yeah, getting rid of the Macago here would be really strong for Gabriel. So if he would able to, as you say, find a gust effect, even finding gusts early and then maybe being able to recycle them in the later stages with just 1 or 2 resource
Oranguru, yes.
Orangurus. So basically, what you have to avoid when you play AD position with Guru versus that deck is getting like caught in a loop where you have to resource manage every single turn, because that you can't afford that. You have to get stuff done in the early game and then throw in 1 or 2 well-timed resource managements. Because if you just keep going for that, then the mill player will eventually win out. Because if you take prizes, right, then the Lieutenant Surge gets activated. And they can eventually get to a setup where they mill 6 cards from you every turn, and you're only able to recover 3 of them. So you have
excellent
to avoid
analysis.
that
This is a very true condition that most people miss out. But obviously, the Gabriel only plays 4 custom catchers and 1 great catcher. Great catcher being pretty useless in this matchup. But he needs to be very mindful on how and when he will resource management, because there's also the risk of getting milled out. Getting milled those catchers, which is going to mean 1 less gust effect. And that's the danger of not playing Pokemon catchers. So actually, these 3 mills are pretty mild. Didn't discard anything crazy. Decides still to go for the fluffy pillow. Let's see if this 25% hits again. Hopefully not for Shintaro.
Yeah, let's see if if that's but at least Gabriel got rid of 1 Pokédoll, right? That's at least something. You like to see that. And there's 1 hit. Oh.
All right.
That was close.
I mean, 25% times 25%, so no.
I mean, sometimes you just get lucky, or in some cases you just get unlucky and flip a bunch of tails, right? We saw that happen on stream before.
Exactly, but there's the switch into the Oranguru. Interesting. I kind of like this play, because maybe he doesn't have a way to retreat and doesn't want to risk it.
Yeah, you had already, there's already 1 switch in his discard pile, so, getting all the switches back seems kind of fine right here. And you haven't taken any prizes, so you can kind of chill with your resource management.
Prevention beats the cure, after all. And there we go, he's already puts 2 switches and a Marnie, 3 cards that are massively impactful in this matchup. We saw him also put a card on top with the resource management, which is probably a card he wants to get milled out anyway. So let's see what Shintaro goes for here. He decides to take another Pokédoll. I really like this. It's obviously the best card in this sort of matchup. Because the Pokédoll gives no prize cards whatsoever, so the ATP effect does not even go into effect. We saw these 3 mills. I don't think there was anything interesting.
I don't think so either. That's really an interesting dynamic, in general. Both players are able to stake the top of the deck, the top card of the deck. And also, in the later stages of the game, there comes a point where, as the ADP player, if you resource manage a bunch, your deck is in a certain order, right? And then the mill player knows which cards are where. So you have to actively play cards that shuffle your deck, so the cards get randomized, and mid-player can't
Exactly.
really.
This is a strategy seen overall throughout games. In Pokemon, it's very important. In Magic, it's very important. But especially here in Pokemon, now that Mill is such an overwhelming deck, it becomes one of those skills that differentiates good players against those who do not really consider this. And so there we see also an energy switch, moving probably an energy to the Oranguru. I really, really like this. But at the same time, now the skateboard is attached to the Oranguru, which is not necessarily bad, but sometimes it's better to have it, for example, on the ADP or on the Jirachi.
Yeah, I think if you like just resource manage back to switching cards, then it's usually fine. Because after you use resource management, your switches will be at the bottom of your deck, and then you want to be able to retreat your resource management without having to dig for the switching cards. So it makes sense in that way. But still, yeah, the escape pod in general is a really important resource, and I would not be surprised if we would see Shintaro Faber that at some point if he gets the turn, maybe a turn off or something. But yeah, I'm not completely sure if it's worth taking that turn off and going for that.
See what Shintaro is doing here. I think it's just thing up. You know, the Mill deck is really, really happy with having these slow and mellow turns. He has also another Pokédoll, but he remembered to bench it. Well done, Shintaro. He's obviously a very high caliber player and will not fall prey of these small mistakes. There's the
Yeah.
Zash, and once again, look at his deck. 16 cards already. Soon enough, there will be. Oh my God! Double heads again.
Double heads again. Oh,
Shintaro is
yikes.
surprised about this one.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, if you play like a lot of like if your opponent flips a lot of coins, eventually they flip double heads. But yeah, sometimes the coin flip luck just staggers a little bit, right? Your opponent flips a bunch
Indeed.
of heads in a row, you flip maybe a bunch of tails in a row, or vice versa. But yeah, actually, Shintaro did in fact Faber the escape board, so
Exactly.
he valued
That's
that a
pretty
lot.
dangerous.
I
Because
thought
now he.
like you would go for it like in a few turns maybe, but he just chose to chase that board instantly.
And finally, the Pokédolls are all gone. Luckily, we're not expanded where Pokédoll and robot substitutes exist at the same time. So we don't have to worry about that. Right now, Shintaro needs to actually put. I would guess it's an Oranguru turn. He does need to probably sell back his dolls. I mean, put back the dolls into his deck. But at the same time, that would put the Oranguru, and finally, the opponent would be able to take a knockout.
I think yeah, there are 3 Pokédolls in his discard pile, so I think it's fair to just go for the resource management right here if you hit it. And
Wow,
yeah,
that
that's
was
nice.
a sort of a risky play here by Shintaro. He did have the Primate Wisdom and Smooth Over combo if he didn't find an energy. We know he plays very few, and he discarded the Recycle energy with that research.
Yeah, I
So
think you need to find
he just
either,
wanted to
right?
find the other, like he just wanted to use this Move Over to have something extra. So there's the
Yeah.
Primate Wisdom. There's another Pokéball, actually I miscounted. I think one went at the bottom at some point.
Yeah, we
And there it
just see
is.
the retreat, waiting for one more turn.
Isn't this an
Um,
exciting gameplay?
I mean, it's patient, calculated, right? And just this turn, Gabriel has to probably will try to dig for some resources, and depending on how many cards he has to spend on getting to his switching cards, then it could become pretty dangerous. I mean, he's already down to only 19 cards in deck, so and he still has 6 prize cards left, so I
He just
think
needs
that will
3
be really
knockouts.
close.
But we
But
didn't see a single custom catcher from him yet, right?
yeah, they're probably all still in the deck, so that's actually at least something. But I think the moment you take a knockout, Shintaro will go on the aggressive and start just search below every single turn, and that will force your Oranguru into a losing fight. So
I think an interesting play that Gabriel can do here is to knock out the station with his own station. This would request from Shintaro to have another station if he wants to keep drawing those cards, and especially with the Marnie spam that Gabriel is able to do it. I think that can be his lead way to victory, because let's remember, Zacian gives up free prizes thanks to that Altered Creation GX.
Yeah, if you're able to chase down 2 Zacians, that would certainly be really good. Maybe Shintaro won't. I think you don't have to bench a second Zacian.
Indeed, indeed.
It helps a lot, certainly, but I think you can play around it. But then you are vulnerable to your Makago being gusted up, because if your Makago then gets
Exactly.
gusted up, you are in a really tough spot. So yeah, let's see if I definitely think that that's a really nice line of play and that it's probably worth going for, but maybe Gabriel knows better than I do, so.
Indeed. Obviously, the Shintaro, as we explained before, does not play this draw-heavy engine. He doesn't play the Chinchinos. He just plays the Zacian and then this Makargo Oranguru smooth over combo. However, it might fall short in this situation, but it really depends how Gabriel will set up the play, as you just said, Martin.
Yeah, now the Oranguru will be put to sleep, the resource management one, from Gabriel, and there's no escape board on it, so it really paid off that Shintaro got rid of that board earlier, and now Shintaro will be able to go into his own resource management. Yeah, he has the perfect cards in hand anyway. Like, even though he got manied or he gets constantly disrupted, he's able to just draw his combos off the smooth over and Primate Wisdom combination.
Indeed, and now he decides to go for 2 Pokédolls and 1 Palpad. He understood that the Pokeball are so effective against. Actually, it goes for 2 Palpads. You know, the combination of these 2 cards and the number in which he takes them, it's pretty much irrelevant. He plays 4 copy of each and 2 heads again.
That's the
Gabriel,
double
my
head.
man, go play the lottery.
Yeah, I guess so. Really nice.
But of course, it's variance after all. So I'm sure. I was talking about it before with Philip. Understanding that variance is such an important component of the meta now is also something you need to rely on, and this is exactly what Gabriel is doing. This saves him 1 switch, of course.
Yeah, if you don't need to play a lot of cards versus mill, you always feel happy. But there's a Professor Research, so I believe we're getting into really dangerous territory now. If Gabriel takes a knockout, then the Lieutenant Search will be turned on, and it's getting really scary.
So it just goes for another resource management, actually.
But that's not going to bring you anywhere, right? Versus mill. If you just keep resource managing and they keep milling 3,
yeah,
then you basically net 0 off that. So
maybe he has 4. I mean, he has a bunch of catchers in the prizes, because we actually didn't see any getting milled at any point.
That could be the case. Like maybe 2 in the prize cards, then it can certainly be hard to just assemble them in your hand.
Indeed, and Gabriel is just playing this slowly, which is fine, honestly. But now his deck is packed with useful cards, so every time Shintaro will mill him, he will actually be discarding more and more interesting cards. So there we go, Free Belelba and Bryson-Man in Shintaro's hand. There's the mill, and I think actually we saw a catcher, I believe. There it is.
Yeah, there's the custom catcher now. The smooth over, looking what's left in the deck, and Shintaro's deck is also stacked with resources right now, so
indeed,
that's also really nice. He has access to whatever he wants. Just smooth over, making his top deck for the next turn, the exact card he wants. So really nice. If
now,
you just
once again,
are able to draw it.
And now once again, Shintaro goes for this refilling of his deck. Once again, continuing the spam of Pokédolls. Right now, he pretty much decided, this Oranguru, I don't care if it gets knocked out. He could have been knocked out last turn, he didn't get knocked out, so I'm pretty sure my opponent just wants to go for my Zacian. Or for something in my bench. And now, he needs to be very mindful, Gabriel needs to be very mindful, because the threat of being milled 11 is online.
I mean, there's no Lieutenant Search just yet, so...
Yes, exactly, but as soon as he takes a knockout, it might be
for sure. I think something that, like, if Gabriel keeps playing that passive and just goes for resource management every turn, then something the mill player can do sometimes is just if you just start attaching to your resource management Oranguru, right, and you eventually can knock them out with profound knowledge, or like no, not even knocking them out, but just attaching energy, and that forces your opponent to take a knockout or bring something up that's not Oranguru and not resource management. So that's a way of applying pressure. Just attaching a second energy can do really, really much in that matchup.
I think Gabriel right now goes for another resource management, and his line of thought is something on around. I know that my opponent probably has a good end. He didn't look for energy support, he just moved over. So I think I need to Marnie right now. Maybe he doesn't have it in his end, and he also needs to knock out the opponent, one of our opponent's Pokemon at that point. And I think yes, it's looking pretty dicey right now. Obviously, they are so oppressive. These mill decks. He actually goes for another switch on the map. We will see another double heads.
That's
Yes,
also
I'm officially leaving.
that's also a way of applying pressure, right? Just putting the opponent to sleep.
Indeed,
So-
indeed. It requires one more answer that Gabriel does not play. We see once again the skateboard, another skateboard hits the discard pile. One is in the lost one is in the discard pile. And these cards are really massive against Marip actually.
Yes. The problem with with the Zacian ADP builds is that they don't play cards that. Oh, I was holding my breath right there for the for the next. The problem with the ADP Zacian builds currently is that they don't play cards that recover other cards, right? There's no stuff like Pelpad, Ordinary Rod and stuff, but the mill player always has access to that. So if you're as the ADP player, if you get +3 of the resource management and then you get milled 3, but then you still have to play a switch or something to get out of the active or get back into the active, that still makes you go -1 in total cards that you have. So it
Indeed,
becomes
indeed.
really a war of resources. Like both players at some point will exactly know what the other guy has left and has access to, and that's the point where it really becomes interesting, and you will see like
We see a switch into the station, just retreating. And as I said, it's at this point, it's where every single card you decide to put back in resource management, every single card you use on the board, that's gonna impact the game from now on because Shintaro is obviously very near to winning. But look at his end size. His end size is becoming very, very thin, and that's exactly what I was worried about. Since he had to resource management every turn, he could not Intrepid Sword, which meant that his end sizes slowly and steadily started to deplete. And
yeah,
look at
but
that
you
Belelba and
only need
Bryceman.
one card every turn, right? You just go,
Indeed, indeed.
okay, I just go Belelba and Bryceman every turn, and just keep putting my opponent back to sleep and forcing them to go -1 every single turn.
Exactly, there's the switch. Obviously, because of the rules of Pokemon, you must draw the first card in your turn. And so Gabriel is forced and every turn to have one less card in his deck. 3 that get milled from Belelba, and one more that is drawn and put into his hand. So there was double. No, my god, that was so near.
Every time the first coin is always heads, right? It always
Exactly,
not really
exactly. It's
scares me,
incredible.
but it gets me excited a little bit, I have to say. So also Gabriel is only down to 9 cards in deck, right? So if you start attacking now, that means you are almost in range.
I think I should start attacking now. Shintaro's hand is just 2 cards. Even if he doesn't know what those cards are, he knows he can tutor any card at any point. And if he wants, he can even stop that. He can just catch her on the Macargo. And that's gonna remove the possibility from Shintaro to always look through his deck. At the same time, he cannot keep up the Oranguru Mary Ploop every turn if he is forced to Intrepid Sword. But instead, no, he just goes for resource management. Interesting.
But you can't go aggressive if you're the AD position player. I think you just instantly lose if you go aggressive. You would maybe take 1 or 2 prizes, right? You can you can 1 or 2 knockouts, right? That might net you 5 prizes in total, but there's no way to end the game with 2 attacks. And if you attack 2 times, that means you're not resource managing, and you turn on Lieutenant Search, and your opponent has exactly the cards he needs in his deck to just mill you for 11. So you have to go for resource management. But every time you resource management, you still lose 1 card. But this time you might not, because as you said, the hand sizes is getting low. So yeah,
I
we
think
won't
at
see
a
Velema
point
this turn.
in the middle matchup, you just need to take matters into your own hand and try, because otherwise you will just succumb to this continuous aggression. But oh my god, always the first heads, and then there's a tails. He is always so near to getting woken up from this slumbering forest. But as I was saying, sometimes you need to take matters into your own hand against Mill. There we go, the Marnie. But oh, I don't really like this. This gives more cards to Shintaro. And wow, those are actually pretty bad cards, actually. Just a Slumbering Forest. Let's see. I'm pretty sure Rafael has some catchers in his prizes. Otherwise, he would have played this differently.
Yeah, I think so too. But yeah, that's if you take, you just go down so many cards, and like if you take, you're not resource managing, right? And then
Indeed,
you
indeed.
go down to below 11 cards. So Gabriel is actually forced to go for resource management again. Also attacking, like if you give your opponent surge, that's really bad. So yeah, we see
Indeed, indeed.
now Shintaro going for smooth over, and
See already Rafael asking for a tie. And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this would mean a double game loss, correct? Since
yes,
there is. Yes, because I'm pretty sure time just run out for both of them. Unfortunately, this sort of matchups, Oranguru is a card that we will soon see leaving the format, and hopefully, just hopefully, we will not be able to see the situations anymore in which the game just doesn't go anywhere. But at the same time, there's a lot of tension, so it is very interesting to spectate this kind of games.
yeah. I think if the game, if there was more time left, I believe Shintaro would win eventually, because the moment that the price cut is drawn, then he would be able to capitalize. But Gabriel playing it smart, like I mean, he gave himself. He was basically playing towards to not lose, which is often fine. But in this special setting, where you just get a double game loss if you draw in the very end, then that's actually not the correct play. You always need to play towards win. But if there's no win condition, or like if the win condition is um, not really feasible for you, then that becomes really tough. So yeah, not taking any
Exactly.
prize cards is yeah, it doesn't won't advance you, won't get you anywhere, of course. And yeah, we see in chat, GG Shintaro, good luck next rounds. Unfortunate for both players that the game wasn't actually able to conclude.
Indeed, indeed. They both played very well, however. Shintaro was always pointing. Why? Look at that. He's ending with style with the double heads again. Yeah, overall, sad to see that both of these players will receive a loss this game. However, unfortunately, c'est la vie. That's how it is. So yeah, I think this went to a tie. So we should just see until they continue until they have an extra until the next round. But do you think that Mill will survive the next expansion overall?
I believe it's going to adapt as always, right? We get there's an interesting new tool coming out for Mill, like the shovel that discards 2 of your opponent's deck if your Pokemon gets knocked out. But a lot of other decks get new tools to play around as well. Boss's Order is going to shake up the format completely. I'm definitely sure that that
Indeed,
will
indeed.
really hinder Makago Mill, because imagine if Gabriel had access to reliable gust effects, right? The one card gust effect that just steals support of a turn, and you're able to constantly gust up the Zacian. Maybe take an early knockout on that, or take out an early knockout on the Makago. And yeah, really if you constantly chase those support Pokemon, and if Gabriel hadn't had to hit into 2 dolls or 3 dolls, then the game would have certainly gone very differently.
Indeed, indeed. Overall, the boss orders is just, as you said, it's a reliable gust effect, and I think it can be fit into other decks. You cannot use it early game because you're probably trying to set up and use as your supporters, But overall, I think it might stop Poké Dolls overall, because Poké Dolls is really what I think. Also in this matchup, it's what really changed the game in favor of Shintaro. And yes, I would be curious to understand what was in the prizes of Gabriel. Sorry.
Yeah, and I believe we will. I
Yeah, I think we
I
will go to a
think the
break.
time already ran out, right?
Yes, I think so as well. So we might go to a break right now,
I think we go to break right now.
and we will be